Well, prolonged shedding of Zika virus associated with congenital infection. Zika virus is an arthropods-borne flavivirus transmitted by mosquitoes. The virus is related to other flavivirus, including dengue virus, yellow fever virus, and West Nile virus. Clinical manifestations of Zika virus infection occur in approximately 20% of patients and include acute onset of low-grade fever with macropapular prurigo rash, arthritis, or conjunctivitis.
This is the Aedes aegypti mosquito. It's the main mosquito that carries Zika. Developing a Zika vaccine could take years. So right now, officials' only tool is to control mosquitoes. So here's the situation. The Zika virus was first identified in Uganda in 1947 and was thought to cause only relatively mild flu-like symptoms. In May 2015, Zika appeared in Brazil. By November, Brazil had seen a 20-fold increase in babies born with abnormally small heads, a birth defect called microcephaly. Months later, the Centers for Disease Control confirmed Zika was the cause. Some countries have even taken the unusual step of telling women to put off plans for pregnancy. The spread of Zika from Brazil to other countries and territories in the Americas has been rapid. In July, officials identified what are likely the first cases of local mosquito-borne Zika transmission in the continental U.S. So how does Zika spread? The Aedes transmits Zika by biting someone who has the virus and then biting another human. The virus then moves to new areas when mosquitoes hitch a ride on travelers or cargo, or more often, when patients infected in one place go to a new territory and are bitten by mosquitoes there. Scientists have also confirmed that it can be transmitted through sexual contact. Only about 1 in 5 people infected show symptoms. For those who do get sick, the illness isn't usually severe and lasts about a week. Some Zika-affected countries are also seeing rising cases of Guillain-Barré syndrome, a nerve disorder that can cause paralysis. Now here's the argument. Right now, the main way to stop Zika is by using traditional methods to control mosquitoes. Another strategy that's currently being tested is genetically modified bugs. The Brazilian government has expanded a pilot program that releases male mosquitoes that have been modified so that when they breed with wild females, the offspring die early. Studies have shown high success rates, but opponents fear unknown consequences. The technology is also in its infancy. As more people travel, there's a higher chance of mosquito-borne diseases like Zika spreading to new places. Ultimately, authorities will need better weapons against bugs.
Well, the application is amazing as a substate case in a person with a rash and or fever with a less of the following symptoms. Arthritis or conjunctivitis, hyperemic and suspect case should also have related to epidemiologic exposure. Even though epidemiologic exposure is not included in the WHO categorization of a wave case.
Today, we're answering your questions about the Zika virus.
And joining us today to discuss this potentially serious health crisis is Dr. Brenda Fitzgerald, the Commissioner of the Georgia Department of Public Health, and Dr. Chris Rustin, Director of Environmental Health for the Georgia Department of Public Health. Thank you both so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's start off with you, Dr. Fitzgerald. What is the Zika virus and how is it spread?
The Zika virus is a virus that attacks nerve tissue. It is spread primarily through the bite of an infected mosquito, but it can also be spread by sexual contact. It stays in your bloodstream for about a week after you have symptoms, but it stays in semen for up to 3 to 6 months.
And Dr. Rustin, what are the symptoms? How would someone know they have the virus?
So the symptoms of Zika is relatively mild, and that's one of the concerns that we have about Zika, is that many people that travel to these countries that have Zika may be infected and not know it when they come back. 80% of the people are typically asymptomatic. So that's one of the concerns that we have, and we want to make sure that the public traveling to Zika endemic countries are wearing appropriate mosquito repellent, and then when they return to our country, they wear that repellent for at least 3 weeks to prevent Zika from getting into Georgia's mosquito population.
All right, and here at Coffee with America, we have a national audience. So what can people across the country do to protect themselves?
There are 2 things you need to do. One is you need to protect your home. This mosquito breeds in small containers of water. So check your home, go in your backyard, be sure to get rid of every single container that can have a small amount of water. And every time it rains, make sure you empty those containers. Tip and toss to keep your home safe. The other thing we want to say is if you go to these countries that have Zika, be sure and protect yourself while you're there and when you come home.
All great info. Where can the viewers go for more?
So for more information, please go to the Georgia Department of Public Health's website at dph.ga.gov, and on our homepage you will find all the Zika-related information related to our travel campaign, related to our tip and toss campaign, information about approved mosquito repellents, and also information, just general frequently asked questions to learn more about the Zika virus itself.
Dr. Brenda Fitzgerald and Dr. Chris Rustin, thank you so much for joining us on Coffee with America.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Zika virus infection has been associated with neurologic complications. These include congenital microcephaly, Guillain-Barré syndrome, myelitis, and meningoencephalitis. The diagnosis of Zika virus infection should be used to suspect individuals with typical clinical manifestation or relevant epidemic exposure.
The World Health Organization has said that nearly every country in the Western Hemisphere, including the U.S., is at risk for the spread of the Zika virus. Pregnant women are the ones who most need to know about Zika. With no vaccine and no available treatment, experts say right now fighting Zika virus depends on one thing: avoiding travel to Central and South America and Mexico, where mosquitoes are aggressively spreading Zika. But many people we talked to today didn't know the dangers until we told them.
It's really scary, definitely frightening. It scares me, that definitely scares me.
Dr. Dean Blumberg is chief of pediatric infectious diseases at UC Davis Children's Hospital. He says often, by the time people ask him about Zika, they've already traveled.
Sometimes they've already been traveling when they've been pregnant, and they're pregnant now, and they've traveled to these endemic areas, and they're concerned. What's the risk to them? What's the risk to their unborn child?
Zika spreads when mosquitoes, a kind that thrive in humid tropical areas of the world, bite an infected person, then bite someone else, spreading the virus. Typically, it doesn't spread through person-to-person contact. Doctors say it doesn't present a danger to most of us, but pregnant women are another matter. Zika can cause malformities, in particular smaller heads, smaller brains, and developmental problems in newborn babies.
If you're pregnant or you're trying to become pregnant, don't travel to one of these endemic areas. There's enough to worry about during pregnancy, trying to bring along a healthy child.
So those cases of Zika here in the U.S., those people traveled to one of those affected areas of the world, which include the Caribbean. You can learn more about Zika virus when you read the story on the KCRA mobile app. You'll find a link there to much more information.
Well, the common sexual transmission of Zika virus has been described in all areas. Men or women with Zika virus infection or exposure who have a pregnant partner should strengthen and protect sex for the duration of the pregnancy. With days with the Zika virus mosquito transmission, it's proven for individuals to abstain from sexual activity or use the protection while active transmission persists.
The Zika
Zika virus, believed to cause brain defects in babies, is spreading explosively across Latin American countries, with Brazil suffering an estimated 1.5 million cases. The mosquito-borne infection is expected to affect up to 4 million people this year. This mother said her daughter seems to be in constant pain and hardly ever stops crying. The army has been taking to the streets in Brazil to try to eradicate the mosquito that thrives in stagnant waters and around rubbish. An army deployed against an insect, and the insect, so far, is winning, with experts warning a vaccine against the virus will not be available for some years, but people are right to be worried.
We certainly have to be worried. It's new, it's spreading very fast. The consequences are very severe. Babies are a vulnerable population. We worry what happens about them.
Most people who catch the illness will only have mild symptoms, but for pregnant women, the virus could be life-changing.
The issue apply in Latin America. Currently, there is an ongoing Zika virus outbreak in the Americas, the Caribbean, and the Pacific. The World Health Organization has stated that the virus is pretty explosive and declared Zika virus in association with a public health emergency of international concern.
Thousands of infants in Brazil are being diagnosed with a devastating birth defect, and medical researchers believe it might be linked to a mosquito-borne virus. So what is this mysterious virus, and how do we stop it? Hi guys, Julia here for D News. Zika, a strange mosquito-borne virus, is sweeping through many Central and South American countries. Current estimates place the number of Zika cases over 1 million in Brazil alone. And in response to the outbreak, the CDC has implemented 2 new travel bans to an already large list for pregnant women, one on the United States Virgin Islands and the other on the Dominican Republic. The ban is for pregnant women specifically because since the epidemic started, the incidences of microcephaly, a devastating birth defect, have skyrocketed. Microcephaly is a condition where a baby is born with a small head. Because the head is so small in those born with the condition, the brain is small too, meaning it's underdeveloped, which can cause a whole range of other health issues, like cognitive deficits, seizures, feeding problems, vision problems, and hearing loss. Unfortunately, there's no cure for the condition, only treatments for its effects. Microcephaly is typically seen in rates of about 2 in 10,000 births, according to a study published in the journal Birth Defects Research. But nearly 4,000 cases have been reported in Brazil since October. That's nearly 26 times the normal rate. And researchers strongly suspect that the birth defect is linked to the Zika virus. Now, this epidemic seemed to have come out of nowhere. The mosquito that carries the virus was pretty much eradicated in Brazil in the 1950s. But as the decades wore on, it made its way back. Then, last year, reports of Zika in Brazil started popping up. It wasn't taken too seriously since its symptoms in adults are mild, just things like a fever or a rash. It wasn't until the rate of microcephaly shot up that the world started to take notice. Now, the battle against Zika is underway, and one that Brazil is badly losing, according to the health minister. And it is literally a battle. 220,000 members of the armed forces are going door to door to help in the current mosquito eradication efforts. But it's not just Brazil. Zika has been reported in 24 regions around the world, mostly in tropical areas. Each country is issuing warnings. Some seem extreme. For instance, the government of El Salvador told women to avoid pregnancy for 2 years. As for the Zika virus itself, there's no treatment, vaccine, or cure. The CDC says the best way to avoid the virus is to avoid mosquito bites. Now, experts say that a U.S. outbreak is unlikely to occur. They believe that most cases will happen to those who travel to Brazil and other affected countries. But this summer, tons of people will descend on Rio de Janeiro for the 2016 Games, which some experts are calling a perfect dissemination vehicle for Zika. If people travel to Brazil, get Zika from a mosquito bite, then return home and get bitten there, the Zika virus could transfer to the local mosquito population, which would mean that there is a potential for localized outbreaks in other parts of the world. Zika is just one of many viruses and diseases that mosquitoes carry. To find out why they're such good carriers of disease, check out this video right here. Most mosquitoes actually fight malaria with their immune responses to parasites. After a mosquito sucks up its bloody meal, a parotrophic matrix or barrier forms in between the bug's lining of their midgut and the blood. So what do you make of this recent outbreak? And what precautions would you take to avoid mosquito bites? Tell us down in the comments below. Don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons and keep coming back to D News so you don't miss a single episode.
Well, the conclusion, there is no specific treatment for Zika virus infection and there is no vaccine for vaccination. Management severe symptomatic treatment. Preventive measures include personal protective measures to prevent mosquito and bites and nutrition of nature help to eliminate and control mosquito breeding sites. Well, thanks